What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. Today, Peter King talks a little bit about what he meant during that final article. We talk about what the GM and head coach had to say, and also the Falcons might be the favorite to land Justin Fields. We break that all down today, but first, make sure to like and subscribe out there so you do not miss one of our Chicago Bears updates this week, especially when it's Combine Week. We have you covered with the best Chicago Bears coverage out there. So let's just get this show on the road and talk about what Peter King had to say today, because I'm pretty sure we all know what he said about the article where the winds were shifting and he's feeling that the Bears are going to be trading back. He was on the Dan Patrick Show, and this is what he had to say about that article.
I could see the Bears. The wind is blowing that it looks like they'll trade that number one pick. These are scenarios that could happen. How much research is in there, Pete?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
You didn't speak to anybody.
I spoke to nobody. I haven't talked to anybody. Like, Dan, a year ago at this time, I just read. I read what's out there. A year ago at this time, I sat in a room for 45 minutes with Ryan Poles, at the scouting combine at the Hyatt in Indianapolis. His next appointment was Scott Fitterer, the general manager of the Carolina Panthers. And this is what Ryan Poles is going to do this week. And I just believe, if I am Ryan Poles, you know what I have on my team? I have a B quarterback with about 10 significant holes.
So that's what Peter King had to say, and he talked a little bit more about this whole concept of a B quarterback. And what he means by that is he feels like you trade back and then you can fill these 10 roster spots, which is a lot of what a lot of different fans have been saying and kind of clamoring for, is you trade back, you get the assets, and then you fill the holes in the roster. But also on the flip side, you can still build the team if you were to draft a quarterback with number one overall. You just won't be able to build it with as much draft capital because you're going to get an absolute haul with that first pick overall. But I thought it was kind of funny how he just kind of laughed a little bit and was like, yeah, that was no one. That was just basically from him reading, but it adds a little bit more context to it. So I wanted to bring that up first. And when we talk about hauls, this is what was said. This is what Ian Rapoport and the other insiders had to talk about. And listen what they had to say about a potential trade back.
And Ryan Poles is in an unbelievable place. If he is blown away by a trade offer for number one, okay, then move forward with Fields and use those pieces to build this team up really as he has done, kind of quietly and sometimes not so quietly at the trade deadline, the offseason, going to continue to do that. If there is not the kind of offer that would force him to move from one, you just take Caleb Williams, who they're trying to get to know as a person, and you move Fields, and it shouldn't be that hard to do that, I don't think.
Paul's made it clear it's going to have to be a significant upgrade for this team and this organization, whatever that package of picks and players, whatever's offered to them comes back. It's going to have to, like you said, be historic, I believe was the word that you used when you reported on this
like
Super Bowl week.
Many firsts and more.
Well,
so you heard that, many firsts and more. So just kind of backing up what he was saying before, where it feels like if the Bears were to move off that number one pick, it's going to be a large group of capital. It's going to be a whole bunch of draft picks, which I know as us Bears fans, we absolutely love. And to me, if you're going to move off of Caleb Williams, then you need a draft haul like that. So to me, this is perfect, because now let's actually get into what the GM and the head coach were talking about. Because what Ryan Poles was really talking about throughout this, and I have a couple little snippets of what he said later on, but truly Ryan Poles is still deciding. And we talked about this on all the shows, that he's going to have an idea of what he wants to do. And you even heard about it with Peter King. Ryan Poles is going to sit down with different GMs and the different teams and then have these discussions going on at the combine. That's what's going to be going on. So it makes sense. And he was talking about it himself. He was saying that he wants something done tomorrow. He wants something ideally as soon as possible. And like what we've talked about on this show, that he wants it done before free agency, because that helps you understand where your team is going to be at, but also have where the opponent's team, where the potential trade partner, whether you're trading back or you're trading Fields, now they know what they're going to do at the quarterback position. Now they know what is in store for their future. So that's where it makes sense for them to just try and get the deal done as soon as possible. But that's why this week is the most important. And then you might see it in a week from now. Maybe we'll get a little bit more clarity, and hopefully we do, so that we don't go absolutely mad. Another thing that Ryan Poles did talk about was Jaylon Johnson. And this got me pretty excited because it sounds like they're working on it. I mean, it's pretty concrete now that they're working on a deal. And Ryan Poles really made it seem like he said that he's strong. He's coming strong on the money and the guarantees. And it really does seem like it's on the Jaylen Johnson side to accept it. And it was really just kind of relieving. And I know we've said this on this show that, hey, Jaylen Johnson is probably not going, he wasn't going to be going anywhere, because you don't let players of his caliber leave. And Ryan Poles did say he doesn't want to use the franchise tag on him, so he's hoping that they get a deal done. So to me, that was relieving, just to know this is where he wants to be. And like I've said before, he has been such a big part of this team. So if you're able to lock him up, that shows just, hey, if you ball out, we'll take care of you. And if you're a big part of this team, we want to keep you here. And it's good business to keep your guys and not just sign some people out in free agency, because when you do that, you don't know if that person's going to be good or not. There's still a huge risk when you do that from a free agent perspective. But let's go over to another piece. So this was an interview done with Stacey Dales, and there's been a lot of questions about, has there been trade talks, and also Ryan Poles' opinions on Justin Fields. So Stacey Dales was specifically asking about Justin Fields, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, so the one thing that's important for us is just continue to communicate and be transparent with Justin, and we'll continue to do that with him and his team. But we have to be open-minded about everything. What you do appreciate about Justin is his leadership, his mindset that he's had over the last 2 years. Things have not been easy, but his stability, his confidence in himself, his leadership has continued to grow as we've gone along, and that makes all of these decisions so complicated because I care about the guy a lot too. So I mentioned it before, no one likes to live in gray, right? You want to know, where am I going? Am I staying here? All of those things. So we'll continue to communicate, but he has done a great job just getting better every single year we've been together.
Yeah, he had a career season, really, in terms of his numbers. What trade talks have come up around his name?
Yeah, nothing right now. I know some people have kind of touched base with different parts of my team, just kind of testing the water, seeing what's going on. But no serious conversations have happened right now.
Ryan,
So you heard it from Ryan Poles, just kind of his opinions on this. And just overall, I felt like Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus handled themselves very professionally. And I know if you go out to Twitter, and there's probably other YouTube channels that are dissecting every word that they say, really you can flip a lot of these one way or the other. Because no matter how you slice it, people are going to make mistakes. I do these shows in one take. I say things that, slip out and other pieces like that. So for them doing these interviews, I totally understand. And really what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to hype up their people. They want to hype up Justin Fields, and they also want to hype up the first pick in the draft. And they don't want to really show their cards. This is them playing poker, because they still need to have discussions. But I do agree with them where they're not going to do something right now, but they want something to be done as soon as possible. But right after I say the looking into the words, there is one that I do actually want to call to light that I thought was that I did think that was pretty interesting, because Matt Eberflus did say in his interview that when he was asked about what he wants in a quarterback, he was talking about how quarterbacks win basically after quarterbacks win in the fourth quarter, and you want a quarterback that can finish things out and be kind of that clutch person. And that brought up this from CBS Sports, because when you have your head coach talking about how it's important for him and what he wants in a quarterback, is someone that can win in the fourth quarter and dominate in the fourth quarter. Justin Fields has been statistically the worst quarterback in the fourth quarter. This is not an opinion. These are stats to back it up. So ranks among quarterbacks with at least 200 passing attempts since 2021. Justin Fields' passer rating 61.3, which is the worst in the NFL during that time. 16 interceptions, which is the most in the NFL at that time, and 55.8 completion percentage, which is the worst in the NFL at that time as well. So that was the only thing the only words that I want to dive a little bit deeper into, because when he calls something out that specific, like being clutch in the fourth quarter, Justin hasn't been that. And we knew this last year because we had some of the worst fourth quarters out there. And it just not a good look. That's the only thing that kind of like stuck by. I'm like, that kind of was like, okay, that's a little dig I felt at Justin Fields a little bit. And I already know some people probably already commented that they're not liking that, but that's what happened. But let's go to the last little bit. So speaking of Justin Fields, this was the last little bit of news. And this kind of just was kicked around a little bit. And this was the potential that the Bears would trade Justin Fields over to the Falcons. And where this kind of came from was Josh Sharrock of NBC Sports Chicago said a league source told NBC Sports Chicago that the Falcons have checked in with the Bears about Fields. It's unclear how far those conversations went, but there's reason to expect them to pick up this week in Indianapolis. Also, too, Steve Wyche says, I was told the Falcons will be aggressive. The aggression will be going up and drafting their quarterback. That's what they want to do. That's where what we were talking about with King's article, that maybe what they want to do is trade all the way up to the second pick to get Drake May. And what Steve Wyche also said, I don't think Justin Fields or Kirk Cousins are their first options. So this is where you get the lovely split. And then two, Raheem Morris didn't make things better, because this is truly reading in between the lines, but it was, he said, you want to get the best fit for your coaches. You want to go get the best fit for our city, and you want to do all those things. So saying the city stuff, some people were saying, do you know who's from that city? Justin Fields, right? So people were talking about, well, that's the connection. That's the connection, right? To me, it's a little pushing it, but I will say, hearing that Josh Sharrock has heard that they had some of the conversations about Justin Fields, it just kind of brings me to what Ryan Poles was talking about with having those conversations with people. So to me, I'm kind of putting 2 and 2 together, and it seems like the Atlanta Falcons then were one of those teams that he was talking about. But what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? I also saw some of those random rumor mills out there that were throwing out random stuff, but one of them was that what if the Bears traded and got Jaylon Johnson for Justin Fields in a second and this, but those you can't take seriously. You say source and there is no source. So bunch of stuff going on, but don't worry, we'll have you all covered. And look, the cat is back in the shot as well. So she's still alive, even though that she's not back there on the right-hand side of me. But also, just a friendly reminder, if you've watched this far, make sure to drop a like, and also subscribe as well. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a